Hi, everybody. How are you? Can you guys see me? Hi. Hi, everybody. How are you? Okay, thank you guys for joining me tonight. So last night, I got on briefly and we talked about the shocking news of Judge Glanville being recused. And hold on guys 1 second. Hi, everybody. Hi, Callie in the house. That's good. No, you can just. Okay, and so I went through the live and I saw a lot of questions, and I think they were great questions. And so I decided to bring somebody who is way smarter than me on to answer your questions. And this is somebody who I personally trusted with my life, someone who is so awesome and was representing me so well and so efficient. So I'm gonna bring her up. Everybody, we have attorney Nove. Say hi.
Hey guys. Hey Kayla.
Hi, thank you so much for joining me.
Sure.
Okay, guys, so you know what we do on here when we have a guest. Let me see those green hearts for Kristen. Green hearts. Here
Oh.
we go. Everybody, let me see those green hearts. Okay, Kristen. So she said everybody says, are you looking at the comments?
No.
Okay, good. Don't look at the comments. We
Okay.
won't get anywhere.
I like to stay out of the comment section. It's weird.
Okay. So we talked about something a little bit amongst ourselves in our group chat, right?
Oh, with the lawyers?
Yes, us.
Yes.
Okay, and I think I want you to say it because everyone on here has already said it, and you didn't watch yesterday. So I just want confirmation of. I mean, if non-attorneys say this, I want to see what your initial reaction to that order was.
Excitement. I skipped the first 9 pages, read straight to the end to be like, what is it? What are we doing? What are we doing? So and it's funny because we keeps getting grouped in with us and the two other recusal issues, which I'm like, we're asking for recusal from a contempt hearing. They're asking for recusal from trial, which, as you recall, Judge Glanville seemed a little bit confused by that when he was like, well, how are you able to be here? I'm like, she's not a co-defendant. And even if she was, that doesn't mean there's necessarily conflict. So I was really excited. I think all the lawyers, Kyle Winchester, Gabe Banks, Julius Collins, myself, Nicole Mormon, and John Garland were the six of us. Kind of plus you, although you couldn't really represent yourself or feel advised.
Oh no, I was no good, so we won't even tell that lie. I was losing my mind.
But I think everybody was just it was the right call. It should have been done earlier, and it's a shame that it wasn't. But I think that ultimately Judge Glanville, for whatever reason, he made the right choice, which was he shouldn't be presiding over that. And I think at first I was a little confused by the order because it still seemed a little bit like, I'm assuming it's canceled. And he kind of said you had reminded me that he'd said I had no interest in this. So it was like, okay, we're just all in agreement. This isn't happening for Kayla, right? That's the main point, is that we don't need to deal with this for Kayla. So, but ultimately it ended up causing issues and for the entire trial that's been going on for 18 months now. I mean, that's wild.
Yes. I mean, one thing that you said, okay, two things I would like to comment on that you said. Everybody knows on here, I'm all about positivity. And I say we are still defense attorneys. So I'm not the one to bash a judge or bash an ADA, because I know that would have adverse effects on my practice and my clients. So that's not the route I like to take. But one thing that alarmed me immediately is that he told you that, but he said nothing to Nicole Mormon, who also represented someone else on the case.
Yeah.
And so I want to know why it would have been
same thing.
Why would it have been a conflict for you and not her? And it just, to me, showed that he definitely picks and chooses what he wants to address and what he doesn't want to address.
I don't know. Or it could have just been that I was the one that opened my mouth. So he was like, all right. I mean, and look at Brian Steele. He's got Young Thug, but he's represented half the co-defendants in this case in one way or another. I mean, it's not uncommon. I don't know. Who knows why he decided to chew on me a little bit. My reaction always whenever a judge does that, and I'm like, you can yell at me and do whatever you want, but just do what I'm asking you to do, and let's just let my client go. And He did it. So for me, I'm like, cool. If you want to have words with me and you want to say whatever you want to say, that's completely fine. Just in the end, do what I want you to do. And as long as that's happening, then we can have whatever speeches, or the bench can do whatever it wants as long as it's doing what I want it to do. So It's, as long as Glenville did what I want him to do, then whatever.
Well, Jason said you handled it very well.
Thank you. It was a little hard because the whole moment I was thinking, our whole point of view is you shouldn't be here, not me. But
no,
he was already in agreement with that. So,
Okay. A lot of people think that the order was, for lack of better words, very gentle on Judge Glenville, and specifically the part where Judge Cross says that she did believe that he could continue the trial, but I guess in public interest, it was a better decision to recuse him. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think, it's hard because I understand where Judge Krause is coming from, that she's saying, look, this is my coworker, right? Like, I'm not going to absolutely tear him a new one. And it's also hard because Judge Krause is like, I'm not the boots on the ground. Like, I can comment on a defense lawyer's, cross-examination or closing argument all day long, but I'm not the one sitting in the chair. I'm not the one on trial. And I think was probably trying to be deferential to say, look, I'm going to believe in the better angels of Uriel Glanville, and we're going to assume the best. And I'm sure when everybody else read that, they were like, okay, but I think she is really trying to say, all right, I'm making the right call, and I want to be clear that I'm making the right call, and I have enough evidence to back it up without trying to drag my colleague for whatever reason. So I'm sure it was the smart move for her to do that, and very political and kind.
Did you think from the beginning that it was going to go that way?
What do you mean?
When it got assigned to Judge Cross, did you think she was going to recuse him?
I thought there was no way. I just didn't think there was any way that anybody was going to let this thing go forward for you, because with you, it's like, one, you've already assumed, your guilt. They already assumed Kayla's guilt. That's ridiculous. And it was really unfair. And the fact that all this comments he made, I'm kind of getting on a tangent, all the comments they made about you possibly violating attorney-client privilege, that never happened. So it was more of like a smear thing for you than it was an actual, what's going to happen legally. But for you, I think all of us, all the 6 of us who were in your corner, were just saying to ourselves, I can't imagine that this isn't going to happen. And then as far as with the actual YSL trial, I think there was a good chance that it was going to happen. I mean, Judge Krause is one of the newer judges. I don't have any reason to doubt her or to think that, you know, she doesn't really understand it. But I think anybody who's hasn't been dealing with this for 18 months and rationally could look at it would pretty clearly be able to say, look, even if we can't point to a specific reason why he should be kicked off, which all the other lawyers would be like, we can think of some, but you know, she can still at least save face by saying, even if there's not anything, he still should not be in this case. I mean, it has gone too far for too long. There's been too many complaints. It's too much of a problem, and it's just been a grind. So it's the right move.
A lot of people have asked, I'm going to ask like top questions that I went through and saw, but a lot of people have asked about the jury. Do you think that this jury has been tainted? Do you think they need a new jury? Will they be able to just bring this jury back and say, hey, we got a new judge? What do you think is going to happen with the jury?
I mean, I think that I would, if I were the jury, I'd be like, can I plead guilty and get time served? Because this is awful. I mean, I can't imagine what this jury is thinking. I truly cannot imagine what they're thinking. And I don't know the day in and day out of what's been said. And I think, you know, just kind of hypothetically speaking, there's two different routes that then everybody that's still in the YSL case can take. They can either say, look, we want a mistrial. They could do that. Or they can say, you know, look, if the case is going really well, let's just let it go forward and let's see what happens. And now we've got a much fairer judge. So, but who knows? I mean, the jury's been out for a month. They've been not doing anything for like a month. So who knows? You know, and I'm sure they're looking at the news.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think that they know about what's going on? Do you think that they know? I mean, I just can't see there being any possible way that the jurors don't know what's happening. I mean, unless you just stay in the house. I mean, you can't step outside without hearing about this.
I completely agree. I have no idea. And I'm sure the jurors, I mean, you got to presume that the jurors are taking their responsibility seriously and they're paying attention when the judge says, don't read any news articles, don't talk to anybody about it. But at some point, if I'm the jury, I'm like, I haven't talked to anybody for 18 months and I've been sitting on the juiciest nonsense that I've ever seen in my entire life. How do I not talk about it? Can I at least talk about it in therapy? Because I'm going to need that by the time this case is completely over.
No, seriously. And
I mean, they're going to have problems. Assuming Judge Krause handles the trial through to completion and assuming one or all or any of them are convicted, it's going to be some serious appellate issues.
Serious. And, you know, I don't know if you can answer this because I know you previously represented someone, but so if this case gets a mistrial, what happens to the people who took pleas? Like, do they have some kind of recourse or are they stuck in their plea? I mean, what happens?
So overall, it kind of depends. It depends on, you know, what happened or why there was a mistrial. You know, and I think, so I had Sergio Kitchens and theoretically, any of them could go back and try to withdraw their plea in theory. But there's also an element of saying, who would want any involvement in this? Like, who would want to be a part of this? And the idea of having it done all over again. And I mean, I think, you know, I've got a co-defendant in the Trump case. We all saw the insanity that went down with Fonny Willis in the Trump case and the craziness of that. You know, that's insane. Fulton County is insane right now. And all the cases that we're doing in Fulton County just feel completely insane. And so the best way I know to protect my clients is to say, let's get out of it. You know, let's not be a part of it. And, you know, I have my own very intense thoughts about the way that Sergio's plea went down. And I think the DA did him wrong. And I think they tried to make him seem like he was an absolute snitch with some of the things that they pulled on him. And it was the opposite. And I think that I think in some ways they're trying to make names, and I think they're trying to make it seem like it's one way, and it's just not, you know. And I don't know if that's because they really believe that. I don't know if it's because they're intentionally being dishonest. I don't know if they're misinformed. I don't know. Who knows?
And that's what I keep saying too. I struggle daily with these conversations with people, and like I keep asking myself, like, do they truly believe this? Because I
Yeah.
mean, if they truly believe this, they're just doing their job. But I just keep asking myself, do they truly believe the things that they have said? One thing that stands out to me the most is they keep alleging, witness intimidation. And I haven't heard any actual occurrence of witness intimidation since this has started. So I'm just like, I'm just confused as to, do they believe the things that they're saying?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, and that happened every time we had a bond hearing. Somebody came up with witnesses are scared, and I think finally we were like, "What witnesses? Who's scared? If you really think this is happening, then let's deal with it." But we can't deal with your speculation and your guesses. And every single time that we had an issue, every time something came up with a bond here, I'm just talking about my experience when I was in the YSL case, before I was back in the YSL case. Um, it was just every single time we'd have a bond hearing, they'd come up with something new. And it was like, oh, why didn't you disclose it to us? And Judge Glenville allowed it. I mean, he completely allowed it. And we even went all the way up to the Supreme Court saying, listen, they're just proffering stuff, but we don't have any evidence. We can't refute it. We can't rebut it. And then after a few days, we would rebut it, but it was too late. So it was complicated. I don't know why. I mean, I know a lot of DAs that I really like, a lot of U.S. attorneys that I really like. And I've not had great experiences sometimes in Fulton County. That's not everybody. But I don't know. I don't know if there's internal pressure. I don't know if everything's in chaos in their office. I mean, I can't imagine it wouldn't be. I can't imagine that working right now at the district attorney's office in Fulton County is just like a fun, no care kind of job. It's got to be super intense and super crazy. And I think there's got to be a lot of pressure, especially, on Simone and Adrian, the two prosecutors who are in this case, and everybody else to get the conviction,
I mean, but I guess I haven't been watching it from the beginning. And you just brought up a good point about from the beginning. So do you believe that there were some, I guess, biases from the beginning?
Well, I mean, on the prosecution side, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's biases on the defense side. There's biases on the prosecution side. It's just the judge just can't be biased. That's sort of the catch. If the
No, I mean,
prosecutors
you
want to
feel
say my
like Judge
client,
Glanville had been biased from the beginning.
it, I will tell you, when I was in the case, it felt that way. There were definitely moments where I kind of wanted to say, hey, like, are we being punked? What's happening? Like, come on. We've had 4 bond hearings, and every time we show up, they've just discovered something that's brand new that they didn't have a chance to tell us about. And every time it never pans out. So come on, like, for real. Are you being serious? And I look at, Jeffrey Williams, Young Thug, and all the other guys, they've been locked up for years. Well, I guess since March of 2022, is that when the indictment was? Whatever year it was. I mean, that's insane.
Okay, Kristen, hold on one second. So everybody who's just joining the chat, this is Kristen Nove. She just announced. I didn't want to announce her as that because she was my lawyer, so I feel some kind of way. She just let you guys know she also represented Sergio Kitchens. You guys know him as Gunna. And she was just giving us a little bit of her experience early on in the case. Of course, we're here talking about the recusal. And Kristen, you also said something that was very interesting to me about how we kept getting grouped in. I kept getting grouped in. I felt like I was on trial. And
Yeah.
I definitely say that, because even to the very end, some of you guys put in the chat yesterday, how come I did not go to court on July 1st? That was 2 days before my show cause hearing. And initially, I had intended on going just because the lawyer in me just couldn't allow this transcript to come out and I not be there to know what was happening. But I was able to take a step back and kind of calm down. And I'm glad I did it because it would have been a waste of my time.
Yeah.
But one of the things that, had me on edge is when he's going through this judicial notice timeline. And he mentions, I say this over and over again, the part about me being on camera talking to these attorneys in the hallway. And right there, I kind of was like, oh my God, what's about to happen next? And then he closes out, and it has absolutely no connection or no tie to anything he's saying. And to me, I just took it as a I can't be wrong moment. She's the one who did this. And I honestly felt like in that moment, well, why won't you pull the camera from every single day? Because anytime I'm on the first floor and I see any of those attorneys, I speak to them. So I don't understand why I am unable to talk to defense attorneys.
You're just not. I mean, I think I don't know why he said that. I don't know if it was a way to sort of justify. I don't know if he's just making comments. There were certain things that I think as he was making this announcement, that we're all still like, we don't really know. We don't really know what he's going to do. I mean, I didn't know that he was going to even transfer it, because he sort of made it seem like we were going to all review the transcript, and we all thought he was going to do like a protective order on the transcript. We didn't really know. So even as he's announcing it, we're like, wait, what? Hold on, what? But I think that's sort of been the position, as you know, all along, where it's one, if you're having, I mean, an ex parte communication is not by definition private. I say not by definition, it's not by definition protected. I mean, in theory, Fight Club had more protections than that meeting did. You know, nobody said, don't talk about it, this is private. And even Judge Krause's order intimated that it wasn't, because her order even said, nobody got a tactical advantage. We're just generally talking about the witness, generally talking about the case. I don't agree with her that it was okay. I mean, well, she did kind of say it should have been done in open court. I do agree with that. It should have been done in open court. And I don't believe nobody got a tactical advantage. I think it was a tactical advantage for the state, because they basically got to re-prep a witness after he'd already taken the stand, which we all know we'd get our heads bitten off if any of us did that. So all of those things, it's not like you went to CNN, you know, or somebody went to Fox News or wherever and said, hey, I got to tell you all what happened. The propriety of a defense attorney talking to another defense attorney of record, we do that all the time. But we also talk to prosecutors. You know, I just think that it's completely appropriate to have a conversation about something that's not protected. There's no order protecting it. Nobody's even said, hey, this needs to be kept private. It doesn't involve the witness's safety or anything to that effect. And there was no attorney-client privilege, because obviously when you're talking to Woody, there's attorney-client privilege. But when everybody else is in the room, there's clearly not attorney-client privilege. It's not even work product privilege. I mean, we're like, what sort of privilege is this? Is this like clergy? Was there a priest in there? What are we talking about? So nothing's protected. So you communicating with defense counsel, or anybody communicating with defense counsel of record, to me, it's so crazy to call that inappropriate, because that's normal. That's what we do. We're always talking to each other, and we're talking to the prosecutors. And if that communication broke down, if for some reason I was never able to have a communication with a prosecutor, I wouldn't be able to handle my cases. So, you know, it's important. And to put a chill factor on that, I think that's a little bit dangerous. I mean, everybody talked about the First Amendment when this case first came out, where we're like, really, we're going to prosecute people for their rap lyrics? And now It's like we're prosecuting defense lawyers just for talking to each other.
Right.
So
and,
I think that's wrong.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said I think it's wrong.
When we first connected, and when we first started working on my situation, I want to know, were you nervous about there being any, I know we talked, but was there any part of you that wanted to know, was there anything that Judge Glenville said to make this hearing confidential?
Well, when I first got involved, I wasn't nervous. I mean, I think our attitude was pretty much like, set them up, let's play. Like, let's do this. We were ready to go. And especially John Garland, my co-counsel, we were out of the YSL case. So we were like, well, we never really felt like we got a piece of that. So we want to get back in it, you know, and we were really excited to help you. Just to have all of the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Attorneys rally around you and Brian. I mean, it was an honor to do that. So that was really exciting. And I think I pretty much speak for all of us when I say that. It's a cool moment to say, no, you're not going to come after our clients, and you're not going to come after us. So that was neat. You know, I think there's always some nervousness, because you take on your client's anxiety. And so for you, I'm like, this is a woman who has worked harder with her career. She's got family. She's got a lot of things that she's trying to do. And we're not going to let her get dragged for this. But I already had an idea of what the court orders that were in place from the trial were. We knew that there wasn't anything. So, and I think I'd even talked to you and said, unless he'd like orally said, oh, by the way, this hearing's protected or something, which, he didn't say. It made no sense as to why he was even upset about it. So who knows?
Okay.
Who
Well,
knows?
Somebody asked this question. A lot of people keep asking this. That Judge Cross says pretty much in her order that the ex parte hearing was okay. What are your feelings about that?
I mean, I disagree. I understand why she said it, but and I think there's a lot of things where if you change one element, I can understand that point of view. For example, if you took out the prosecutors and it was just the judge communicating with the witness and you, the witness's lawyer, and saying things like, I just want to make sure that you're understanding and I want to make sure that this is clear. I think that's fine. But if the prosecution's going to be there, you got to have the defense there too. And because of the hearing, and Judge Glenville, I don't think he even started it. I think the prosecution kind of called the hearing, and perhaps their intentions were, well thought. Maybe there was some concerns. I don't really know what their position would be, and I don't want to assume. But I think that for, our thoughts and our purposes, we're like, well, why would you even do this? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And why you would just keep the defense completely in the dark when they're sitting right there in the courtroom for 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. And I didn't even realize that they were sitting down there. And I tell people all the time that when I actually came out of that meeting into the courtroom, that's the first time I had been relieved walking into a courtroom. I was so stressed out behind what had just happened. It was just so much emotion in that room that when I came and sat down, I didn't know we had been in there 2 hours. I had no idea that they had been sick. I kind of was in shock. I was in a state of shock because the tension in the room was real. And I also said I think that he could have remedied the situation by two things. One, just coming downstairs and saying, "Hey, this is what happened. We didn't know it was gonna go like this, but just let you guys know this is what we've been doing, and this is what happened."
Yeah.
But he didn't do that, and I also feel like if he wouldn't have tried to initially take his, I don't know, I guess frustration out on me and Brian and not release the transcript, that may have been okay as well. I don't think we would have been at a recusal.
Who knows? There's so many little things, but obviously what happened back there raises a lot of problems. As a defense lawyer, if there's a witness saying, well, I'm going to lie, okay, that's a problem. If the defense lawyer is saying anything that's exculpatory, that's a problem. You got to tell me about that. That's Brady. If the witness says, I'm definitely going to lie, and the prosecutor is going to put up him knowing that he's going to lie, that's the Supreme Court Napier problem, right? A prosecutor can't put up knowingly perjured testimony without correcting it. So it creates all sorts of issues. And I would like to think that the DAs, ADAs, and Judge Glanville didn't envision that it was going to go like that. I'd like to think that, and then maybe when it did, if it were me, if I were the judge, I'd be like, oh crap, like we got to go back in the courtroom, or at least give the defense a transcript. Just let them have it. There's no reason to keep this secret. And I think the bizarrety was the cover up. That's what made everybody shake their heads and say, what's really going on? Why are we keeping this a secret? It just doesn't make any sense. And then it came out anyway. So, and I don't know.
Everybody wants to know, is Miss Weaver, the court reporter, still going to be around, or is Judge Ingram going to have to bring her own court reporter?
Who knows? Give that woman a break. Let her. Who knows? That may be between her and God. She may be like, get me out of here. I need a sweet Christian break from these nutcases. So who knows? Who knows?
What has your experience been like with Judge Ingram? Have you tried a case before her?
I have not. I think I've done a few pleas. You know, it seems like you pull some judges constantly, and Judge Ingram's just isn't one that I've pulled, so I don't have much experience. Um,
I agree with you, not to cut you off, but I go to the same judges all the
yeah,
time. It's like, and then I've been before Judge Ingram 3 times.
yeah.
And I mean, I think I got the cases late in the stage. I don't have a lot of experience with her, but I can say that it's always been a pleasant experience in her courtroom. That's all I can say.
I mean, and also, I mean, judges, their job is calling balls and strikes. That's it. That's all you're doing. You're just calling balls and strikes and keeping the play fair. That's the point. And I think when you get involved and start making comments, you know, and I hope Judge Ingram won't do that, because it's also just a bad look. It's just unprofessional.
It's unprofessional.
You know, and I'm sure, and if I was the prosecutor, I would be like, I don't want to have this happen either, because I don't want to try this case twice. You know,
Yep.
let's go the first time.
And it's just so crazy to me. I know a lot of people are talking about, Alec Baldwin, and it's such a similar situation. Um and it's like it's almost identical to a certain extent. You have his co-defendant who is of less power, less, known, and they've already been through everything, been through every stage and found guilty. And then he comes and he gets his own trial, and 2 days he's dismissed for prosecutorial misconduct. And it's like the same thing going on here. And I don't know if you know
It's not.
Mr. Jeff, um Big Jeff, what we call him. But he said so many things to me the other day that were just so alarming that sometimes we only use our lawyer brains, and that's all we can think with. But I mean, he just said so many things to me that opened my eyes. And the two things that he said that stood out the most, which I said yesterday, he said these guys have not been innocent until proven guilty. They've been guilty from the day they got there, and they just have not had a chance. And just I definitely agree. And I'm gonna keep bringing this up because I was on the YFN case, and we were on that case for so long, and then YSL comes to court indicted with a judge in a speedy trial, and we've been sitting here for all this time. And for some reason, these guys, Mr. Jeff said, it just blows my mind because I have clients sitting in Fulton County Jail right now, as long as they've been on trial, unindicted, and sitting there. And there are some people, and you can speak to this for sure, who have been indicted, taken a plea, sentenced, and on their way before average people can even get indicted. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's awful. That's part of the reason why. I mean, I kind of cut my teeth initially, and the thing that made me go to law school was working with the Georgia Innocence Project and seeing the people that, you know, I mean, and the Southern Center for Human Rights. I mean, they do such good work, but it's just like beating your head against a wall every day because you're always the underdog. And I think it's horrible. And I wish those cases got just as much publicity as some of these other ones. I mean, I've got a number of cases right now that are in the appellate process that we're working through going, how can this be? And the sad thing is, on top of it, there's already a stigma. You're already dealing with a stigma because your client was accused of something. Sometimes you're dealing with stigma because of your client's gender or race or preferences. So you're already dealing with that. So my response to a prosecutor is, why cheat? Like, just let it be fair. Let it be where it is. And also understand that, you know, I have a duty to my client. You as a prosecutor have a duty to the entire county, and my client's in that county. So I think sometimes the bravest thing you can do is take a step back and say, I'm not going to move forward with that case, or I'm going to look at it critically, or I'm going to listen to the witnesses. And I have a lot of prosecutors that I've butted heads with in a professional manner who I've also ultimately respected because they've been so good at saying, you know what, I just don't think this is the right thing. And they've fought for that. And so I think as a prosecutor, you can fight for the right thing. And if you lose sight of that and becomes more about your record, then you forget that you're dealing with people. And I don't think, I mean, no person's freedom is bigger than your ego. And I think there's a lot of people that forget about that. And I think some judges forget about it. Sometimes defense lawyers forget about it. And sometimes prosecutors do too. But I'm glad that it's coming out. I'm glad that there's more evidence, but it's hard not to look at Alec Baldwin and say, this is a rich white guy who's a movie star. What if he was a poor young black man who didn't have the funds for a really good lawyer who could uncover this? Where would he be right now? And so I think, while I'm glad there's people are talking about it, it's also like, man, we got to keep looking at the other side. And I think the more we look at the criminal justice system with a critical eye, the better it is. And hopefully it improves all of us. The judges get better, the prosecutors get better, defense lawyers get better. You know, we all got to learn. And I think the more we try and figure it out, the better. So hopefully that's what we're doing.
Do you think that in next steps, how long does it generally take to get a ruling on a mistrial? And in the meantime, do you think that they should be given a bond, or what do you think should happen next?
I mean, nothing about this case is. I mean, nothing about this case is normal. There's nothing normal that's happening here. So it's hard for me to say, yeah, this is nuts. And I don't even know if they'll get a mistrial. I don't know if they'll do that. I thought they should have gotten bond early on. I know Gunna should have gotten a bond immediately. And they didn't have anything on him. I mean, he pretty much just got time served, and it was an apology. And the work that he put into the community, you know, I mean, it was nonsense. And he wouldn't even cooperate with them. And they still let him go. I don't know to the extent that the other defendants who are still in the case, what their arguments for bond would be. But it certainly seems, I mean, if it was a mistrial, I would be screaming for a bond, because I'm like, we just did this for 18 months. They've been locked up for forever. And they're locked up based on these proffers of the prosecutors that don't even make sense to me. You know, and maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. I understand you want to protect the community. I get that. But I would definitely be jumping up and down, freaking out for a bond, you know, especially if it's a mistrial. Because I'm like, if we're going to do this all over again, you can't let them sit there.
Can you explain what a mistrial is? Because a lot of people think that if it's a mistrial, they just get to go home. Can you just give me insight on that?
Well, it kind of depends on how they do it. So let's assume that they either trial in Thug's case, or they do move for a mistrial and they don't get it. You know, obviously, if that's the case, then they just keep going, and they're just going to see it through to the conclusion, and the jury's going to be like, wow, the judge looks like a totally different person. And they're going to be like, yep, nobody worry about that. I guess. I don't know what they're going to tell the jury. These folks may be blacked out at this point, or like, I don't even care. Nothing ever. I've seen everything. So that's one element. If they do get a mistrial generally happens sometimes, like if a witness says something they're not supposed to, if, you know, you find out that a juror, you know, is somehow planted on the jury, or there's been some kind of tampering, or something hasn't been disclosed. I mean, there's a million reasons why a judge might dismiss the jury and say there's a mistrial. But when there's a mistrial, generally, unless there's a double jeopardy argument, they just start over. So you just have a new trial. You can also, well, it really wouldn't be a mistrial, but then you can have a new trial if you go up to the Court of Appeals or the Georgia Supreme Court and they overturn it. So there's a lot of reasons, but you're really like back at square one, which sucks sometimes.
Because how do we pick this jury again? Do we have to do another 10-month jury selection?
I don't know. I mean, there's a reason I'm not a judge, I think, because there's a reason. I mean, if I were the judge, I'd be like, you pick 3 people and we'll do trial on them. And then we'll just sort of, maybe you make a good deal for the rest. I don't know. I don't know what I'd do. I imagine that the prosecution, Simone and Adrian, have to be freaking out. If I were them, I would just be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. You know?
Okay. So speaking of Simone and Adrian, do you think they should be recused because they are now on Attorney Steele's witness list? Everybody wants to know that.
I don't know. I don't know if I don't know that they would be recused just because they're being called as witnesses. So I don't think that would be an occurrence. But I mean, there's a chance the judge may say, look, I'm not even going to let you call them because you got a transcript. You don't need to call them. If I were Brian, I could come up with a few good arguments as to why I would need to call them. I think Judge Glanville's on his witness list. I don't know that I want to call Judge Glanville. I'd be like, no, I think we're good. I think we are, the relationship's over. Let's move on. But that's just me. But I know it would be complicated for them to sit there and testify when they're also in the trial. I mean, they're going to have to get cross-examined and by maybe one of their colleagues. I don't know what that's going to look like if the judge even allows them to call them. So.
Yeah, that's what I said. I wonder if the judge would even allow them to be called. That's going to be the first step.
Yeah. If I were Judge Ingram, I'd be like, now's a really good time to retire. Let me get out of here.
Someone says her term is up December 4th, 2024. So what happens then?
I don't know. Maybe she needs to just be like, you know what, guys, I decided I'm not running for re-election. I'm out.
I mean, you see, Judge Edwards decided not to touch it because she was first given the opportunity to hear the recusal, and I think she said no.
I mean, it's such a mess. It's a messy trial because you're dealing with press, you're dealing with many defendants, you're dealing with a jury at this point who has no idea what's going on. I mean, the case is a disaster. It's such a disaster.
Do you see a big difference between what's going on with Trump's case and what's going on in this case? Like as far as everything?
I mean, so it's easy for me to sit back and say to the ADAs in this case and to, Fonny and everybody in Trump's case, well, here's how I would have done it. I don't know. Maybe I would have just screwed it up just as bad. Who knows? But I think there's a lot of hubris, and this is just my thoughts. I think there's a lot of hubris, and I think that, perhaps if there was a little bit more communication and understanding with both sides, and I think they could at least avoid the perception of impropriety. I mean, they're just blowing right past that. And I mean, to take the ADA's side, to take Fonny Willis's side, which what I know of these women, by the way, and I know there's also men involved in the case, but I'm just talking about the ladies. What I know of these women, I like, and I've had cases with them before. So it's hard for me to drag on them, but there is some moment where I'm like, what are we doing, ladies? Like, what
are we doing
here? Like, come on. And who knows? I mean, maybe in an honest moment, they'd be like, I don't know. I don't want to do this either. Who knows? But I think that Fulton County is taking on these massive, massive cases. Everything seems to be a RICO. And I don't think it needs to be. And I also don't think that's doing the citizens of Fulton County any kind of favors. It's certainly not doing any favors for the justice system. And maybe they've got reasons that I'm just not educated enough to understand. I've never been a Fulton County prosecutor for good reason. But
I have,
I know you have. So you can talk about it better than I can, but you were under Paul Howard.
Right.
But it's complicated. It's a ton of pressure.
I enjoy being a defense attorney with Mr. Howard way more than I do with this administration. I just have to say it's almost impossible to get anything done. It's just almost impossible. The backlog is crazy. And then I just think it's just so crazy how in the midst of all of this, I mean, if you go to other jurisdictions and Nicole has a story that she tells about, she does federal law, so she goes everywhere. And she's like, everywhere she goes, people are like, what is going on in Fulton County? Yeah, and, then we have the system being hacked for, I don't know, maybe 3 months.
That was ridiculous.
I mean, there were so many things that we couldn't access. Prosecutors couldn't give us information. Everything was, well, it's hacked. So many people just stuck. You got that going on. Then you got this whole situation that with Fonny, that somebody said, will you be at closing arguments for Fonny on December 5th?
What?
Or August 5th? Do you know about closing arguments for Fonny's dismissal?
Oh, they're talking about oral argument, I bet. So they set oral argument in that case. That's probably, and I think, well, but I don't think it's August 5th. I think it's December 5th.
Yes, December 5th.
Yeah, December 5th is the day that they set that. Yeah, we'll be there. I mean, let's see how the courts handle it. Let's see how the courts handle it. I mean, I will say though, for Fonny, I think I had my first case with her. I think it was like 2010-ish. So I've been with her, like had some cases with her for a minute. And the Fonny Willis that I knew was fair. She was thoughtful. She worked very hard. And so this sort of turn is like, I think defense attorneys don't get excited by this. Like we kind of course, always we get excited by a good fight. But I think there's some element of being like, gosh, we're all in this together. And I hate that this is our justice system. And I hate that our clients are watching it, because I want to be able to tell my clients, you're going to get a fair trial. You're going to be treated fairly, and I'm going to make sure of it. But there are many times, you know, with Sergio that I was like, I don't know how to protect you from this. I don't agree with what the judge is doing. I don't agree with what the prosecutors are doing. And I don't understand their perspective on this. And not only that, I don't think it's right.
No, I mean, there's so many times I make this joke. And I'm like I said, I'm not saying anything bad, but I make this joke and say, I want my money back, because I gave money and I gave time to something that I don't agree with. You know, it's completely not what I thought was going to happen. I'm shocked.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not the only attorney who feels that way.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, who knows? I don't know enough about Fonny's administration and what they're doing. And part of me is like, I don't care. I'm just trying to get my cases seen through. But at the same time, I don't know. And I hope, but the problem is, I think we're in a bad place now in Fulton County, where it doesn't matter if all the DAs are corrupt or they're incredibly honorable, because now the appearances, it's so bad.
It's so bad.
It just looks bad, and it's really hard.
Yeah, one thing I thought about is how many people are going to contact their lawyers and say that things happened, unethical and, you know, violations of rights happened in Judge Glenville's courtroom. I mean, I want to know how many people are going to say, hey, me too, you know?
Yeah.
I just don't see this going well.
It's not. It's going so poorly. But hopefully there just has to be some kind of trust, at least among the professionals with each other. I don't think there's any defendant who's like, yeah, I really trust Fulton County. But the problem is, at least there are some lawyers that were like, oh, there's some DAs we know, there's some judges we just have a lot of respect for. And I think it's just been hard. I think it's been really hard. So I'm hoping that, who knows, maybe they need to do a PR campaign. I don't know. That's above my pay grade. That's not really my job. But I know that between Trump and Cop City and YSL, it is complicated. And I think these judges and the defense lawyers and the prosecutors.
Are you on Cop City too?
Mm-hmm.
You're on Cop City too?
But that's the AG's office. That's
me too.
Yeah.
Right. I'm on Cop City too, but I mean, with that, we talked about that a little bit too. I mean, they got, I hate to say it, you know, Judge Adams is tough and she has her ways, but one thing about it is she knows the law and she has a respect for the law. And I think that they are definitely going to get a fair trial.
That's the hope. And hopefully it's not going to last forever.
It's way different. You know, those people, that's a big criminal indictment as well. And almost everyone's out on bond. We have all these large criminal indictments.
That's a big factor, is that I think almost everyone, if not almost everyone, is out on bond in that case, which is, it takes a lot of the pressure off, because you're not dealing with a client who's awaiting trial and awaiting this big moment in their life. And in the meantime, they're just sitting around losing their family and their job and their time. And, you know, that's really hard. So having people out on bond in the Cop City case, I think makes it so much easier. And it's the right call. If to me, if you're the prosecutor and you're going to bring out these massive indictments that are going to take forever to go to trial, and then once they're in trial, take forever to actually have the trial, then you have to think about reasonable bond and reasonable bond conditions.
That's
You
right.
know,
That's
it's
right.
hard, but
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on here. And everybody has been so interested in this recusal. I think you had some great things to say. I appreciate you for helping me, everything that you have done for me. I think they put your information in the chat. We appreciate you so much. Everybody, let's make sure we like the video and say thank you to attorney Kristen Nove. Thank you so much.
thanks to you, it was an honor. It was an honor to help out a fellow defense attorney,
No,
and I think
thank
all
you.
6 of us felt that way. So it was pretty cool. It was cool to be a part of it and to see it through. So hopefully your part's over now, and then we'll see what happens with YSL.
Yeah, I mean, we finally got an order. That was so interesting. I know we're wrapping it up, but I mean, we couldn't get an order. We had to just sit in limbo and wait. Oh, God.
Who knows?
Well,
Godspeed to all them. I mean, we'll see what happens with that trial, but yeah.
well, thank you again. Enjoy your vacation. Everybody said good job. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I guess we're done for a little while then.
I know we're done for a little while.
That's exciting. All right, I'm gonna hang up and sign off. But it was so good to see you, and hopefully, you need to have dinner with all 6 of your lawyers as soon
Yeah,
as
hopefully we can
we
get
want to
that
hang out.
done. I'm trying to get that done ASAP. And hopefully you'll come back and talk to us some more.
Sure, sure.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. So I do want to just say one last thing before I get off of live. There are a few people who have been asking me over and over about, can I talk about some of the things that I wear in fashion? And I did some great content today, and I did some content inside of my closet. So I am going to post a video, but it will be a members only video. So please, if you want to see, sign up for a membership on my page, and I'm going to drop some fashion videos. I don't want to use my live platform to talk about things like that, but I am going to do some shorts and post some videos so that you guys can see what's in my closet, things that I wear to court, things that you shouldn't wear to court. And we can just talk about other things outside of live. I want to make sure that we stay on topic on live and talk about relevant things, and you guys get to see the lawyer side of me on live. But I will be posting things related to other topics that you guys ask. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is fashion, and that's because what why y'all don't these comments are so funny. I don't want to clog the live with fashion, and everybody doesn't want to hear about that. That's the only reason why I'm saying sign up for a membership so that we can go ahead and talk about that privately. But thank you, everybody. Can I please get some more likes? A lot of people can't find me in the algorithm because I need to get my likes up. I appreciate you guys so much for hopping on here. I've been doing my hardest to find meaningful guests, and they've been coming with it, guys. They have been coming with it. Cop City, we can talk about Cop City. Um, we're not going to talk about it today, but it's another large RICO in Fulton County. Don't quote me, but I think there are at least 80 co-defendants. It is a case where they were building like a training facility for the police, and it went left. People were protesting, and we had someone who ended up dying, and a lot of individuals were charged with a RICO in that. Yes, I'm accepting new clients. Follow me on Instagram and you can DM me. No, Judge Peterson did not stand us up, guys. She was gonna come on Monday, but I asked her not to come on Monday because I knew that you will want to talk about the recusal. I don't think that it's fair to her or fair to you guys to have brought her on Monday when we were talking about another judge and unethical issues. I just didn't want to throw her in there. I want her to have her own platform, and I want everybody to come in with a positive vibe. So that is what really happened on Monday. I just didn't want any confusion. I want to keep the positivity going. I'm so proud of the way everyone conducts themselves in my space, and I appreciate it so much. So don't think she stood me up. Thank you so much. So just DM me. I've been doing my best to respond to DMs. Sometimes I may not respond, I'll just heart it, but just know I'm trying my hardest. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys kept the momentum going. I'm just so thankful. Thank you so much.